morning, everyone, and welcome to the second TVNI webinar. This one is on handicrafts, and it is entitled Vetiver Handicrafts, the Technical Training and Business Process and Benefits to Communities. We're fortunate to have with us this morning 5 panelists. These include Vonnie Roudette from St Vincent. Vonnie has had a significant project in recent years driving regrowth of vetiver grass awareness and education in St Vincent and the Grenadines. And she also has a program for the rehabilitation and reintegration of inmates at Her Majesty's prisons in Kingston through involvement in the creative design and production of vetiver grass handicrafts. This project was developed by Vonnie and led by her and is called Grow in Time. There's a short film capturing it that we're going to show you here in just a few moments on the work that Vonnie does. Vonnie is with us today, but we're going to show her video and she'll be around for questions. The second person we have is Oswaldo Luque of Venezuela. He has been involved with vetiver for a long time. He and his brother have done a lot to introduce vetiver and many of its applications to Venezuela. For more than 20 years, Oswaldo, who has worked for the Polar Foundation, has worked with vetiver handicrafts and has developed a series of women's cooperatives that produce and market handicrafts. Oswaldo's having a little bit of difficulty getting online this morning, so we're going to have him present last today and hopefully get him on in time. The third person we have with us today is June Slinger from Grenada. And she has recently set up a vetiver network on that island to encourage the use of vetiver, and she's encouraging the revival of vetiver handicrafts and recently organized a handicraft workshop. And we're also fortunate to have with us Jacob Jose of Kerala, India. He's the manager of PDS Organic Spices, and under their micro-enterprise program they have established a vetiver grass handicraft program that's having a significant impact of empowering women who participate in the program. And then we also have with us Paula Leao Pereira of Brazil. Paula is the director for Bioengineering Department of DeFlor Bioengineering. DeFlor Bioengineering being one of the first and largest of the bioengineering companies that have started using vetiver for infrastructure stabilization. They've done a good number of large projects. And but as part of their community outreach, Paula has organized a handicraft training course in 2016, and we're going to hear about the progress since that time. So without any further ado, I think I will turn you over to our panelists. So first up is the video from Vonnie.
It has been a constant battle with soil erosion in this area, where the flow of water through the river and through the mountains, and generations after generation they have been trying to stabilize that area.
As a farmer doing farming for many years, I could see I was not really getting the kind of returns that I wanted from the crops that I was planting. They were just washing away. And
during Maria, there was a house just about where you were parking your vehicle, a much bigger house than this one, and I witnessed it slowly sliding down. The house was so, and
Dominica is a mountainous volcanic island, and with the increasingly severe weather systems, the heavy rains and drought, like other Caribbean islands, is prone to landslides, flooding and topsoil erosion.
Well, this happened here as a result of the weather a few days ago. When I came here yesterday, I noticed this area had dropped.
Due to its deep-rooted system that grows vertically and forms a fibrous wall below the surface, vetiver grass is a useful, low-cost intervention for prevention of land erosion. The deep root system that grows over 10 to 15 feet deep is highly effective in preventing landslides and soil loss, and specifically planted on contour for effectiveness, and we've been doing technical training in the contour planting.
When you're finished.
Now when you look at a map of a mountain and you see all the lines going around at different heights, where those lines are is where we want to plant the vetiver, so that when you get the runoff and the soil erosion and everything, the vetiver will catch all the runoff and it will eventually accumulate and be level, so you'll form level terraces. The beauty of vetiver as a low-cost intervention in land conservation is that it has multiple uses. The craft element is really a byproduct of the working with vetiver in land conservation, and it effectively uses the grass of the vetiver in a productive way so that you can generate sustainable livelihoods.
I am planting vetiver at home so that I could use it as raw material, so then I don't have to go to buy, but I just have it right there in my backyard or in my garden, so you can just cut it down, put it to dry and get it ready for plaiting to make a basket or whatever you want to make in vetiver.
I'm particularly excited about the fact that from this training a group of active producers has emerged, and we've been able to begin to market their products in the domestic market.
Well, this would be good for like $30, $40, $50. Easy.
Okay, cool. I like the shape. You can make bigger ones?
Bigger, smaller, yes.
I love buying our local products. That's cool. Let me see what else you have.
Without the soil and without a rich soil and vibrant ecosystems, nothing will grow, and out of that we can't survive. So anything that is a natural intervention for enriching soil quality has to be something that we act upon without delay. And vetiver has that potential to, within a very short space of time, to address the depletion of the soil and the erosion of the soil and build it back up. So look, we've got some very long ones here. 5 feet. This leaf even goes to 6 feet. Wow, isn't that something?
I really love the program. It can help protect the moisture. It can bring more moisture to the plant, and so I can get a better yield. We learned that it can go down into the earth, maybe up to how long? 10 feet or more. And that to me is very interesting. I've decided, because now I'm seeing the effects of this, I will definitely plant more vetiver to help protect the land from moving.
It's an incredible plant and overwhelming. It just makes me feel so good inside to express how a plant can save the soil.
So right at this point we have the vetiver all along the hillside, protecting the topsoil so that we do not lose our property.
Oh, we had, okay, sorry. No, we still don't have Oswaldo in this morning. So we'll turn this over. I think we'll ask, while we're waiting for Oswaldo, June, would you like to give your presentation? Then we'll have Jacob, and then we'll have Paula, and if Oswaldo manages to get in, we'll have him give the last presentation. So, June?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so vetiver grass has been growing in Grenada for probably around 100 years, but people have forgotten why it was planted and how best to use it. So in 2019, I got together a group and we formed a non-profit organization, Eco Strategies Grenada Incorporated, to apply for a grant from the Jeff Small Grants Program to reintroduce vetiver and promote the Vetiver System as a tool to mitigate land degradation and coastal erosion and provide self-employment opportunities for rural communities in Grenada. Our project started in April 2020 and will run till the end of August 2021. It's included workshops, planting of demonstration sites by the participants, and handicraft training. Our handicraft training was a very small part of the overall project, but in hindsight, we now realize what an effective tool it can be to engage with local communities and interest them in the whole vetiver package. Also, prospective donors are far more likely to fund projects that can provide additional social and income benefits to the participants. So I have some slides I can show you now, I hope. Okay, are you seeing my slide number one?
Yes.
This is one of the billboards we
Yes,
erected
we are.
This is one of the billboards we erected our demonstration sites. We give credit to our donors and direct people to our website and give them our contact information. An 8-day workshop was held in November 2020. All the participants received classroom training from vetiver specialist Jonathan Barker for 3 hours in the morning. And after lunch, there was a choice of fieldwork or handicraft training. The handicraft training area was decorated with posters that I got off TVNI's website. So this is a group of handicraft participants on day one, Jonathan Barker in the blue shirt in the middle. The participants were first shown how to dig up vetiver clumps from the nursery, separate the slips from the leaves, and dry the leaves before moving on to handicraft production. The slips were then used to establish the demonstration sites. We found a very entertaining and engaging local craftsman who was good at teaching the basics of vetiver handicraft production. But to move our participants on to a more advanced stage of craft making would involve bringing in an experienced trainer from St Vincent, Vonnie, or Venezuela, Oswaldo, to Grenada in the future. However, most of the participants succeeded in completing at least one saleable item by the end of their training. The participants here are learning their very first simple plait. It's hard to see, but one participant on the left made himself a vetiver belt and bracelet, which he wore proudly throughout the workshops. These are items brought as a demonstration by our instructor, who sells vetiver handicraft for a living. When Grenada's tourism market recovers after COVID, there will be a ready market for vetiver handicrafts. Another option would be for us to export vetiver products through an online portal, possibly in conjunction with other Caribbean islands, including House of Vetiver in Trinidad. One of our participants made this simple but attractive mat after only 3 afternoons of classes, which shows how much can be taught in a short space of time. Our participants are anxious to move on to more advanced training when we can organize this for them. And here are some simple items made by other participants. Everyone was very happy to have the opportunity to acquire this skill and really worked hard. One afternoon, we offered a soap making demonstration, incorporating Vetiver essential oil and root shavings. The equipment and the method used was simple and easy to replicate by the participants at home. The soap we made was a bit rough looking, but one of the participants went on to use some proper molds and made an improved product, which you can see in the bottom left picture. Another afternoon, we demonstrated how to make essential oil from vetiver roots. The participants were taught how to sustainably grow and prepare the roots. At a visit to the government chemist lab, they watched a small amount of vetiver essential oil being produced. As you can see, the equipment's very small, so it wasn't much. Our workshop facilitator, Jonathan, visited a sister project, also funded by the Jeff Small Grants Program, where vetiver is being planted for erosion control in the prison kitchen garden. The inmates were very interested to see the handicraft and the roots bundle and the soap that he took to show them. And this could be another prison project for Vonnie to assist us with. While at the prison, Jonathan taught the inmates how to prepare strips of vetiver slips using bamboo, which is readily available to them. The participants helped to establish a vetiver hedge at a community recreation ground that is being eroded by the sea. This is a very challenging installation. Thank you, Dick, for putting me in touch with Jason in Hawaii, who suggested planting a naupaka hedge behind the vetiver to absorb the brunt of the salt water. In these photos, the naupaka has not yet been planted, though. Participants went on a field trip to establish a nursery at the government plant propagation station. We ended up using the slips in an area where they are experiencing erosion at the side of a greenhouse. So at the start of the rainy season, we will have to take them more plants to establish their nursery. One of our participants owns a pig farm where the effluent is polluting a nearby river. So we helped him establish some vetiver hedges to mitigate this problem. Several of the pig farms in Grenada have been closed down because of polluting the nearby rivers. So this could be an important intervention. One afternoon, the field work was to establish a vetiver hedge at the bottom of the 4-H garden at a nearby school. The students helped us plant, and we will be establishing educational posters in the school library so they can continue to be educated about vetiver. This is the hedge a couple of months later where it has caught well. Some of the participants from our workshop are now receiving incentives to weed, water, and maintain the demonstrations they planted. This is helping to further their education, their vetiver education, and will also ensure the success of our demonstrations. So that was my last slide. And in closing, I would just like to suggest that anyone planning a project to promote the Vetiver system should include handicraft training, as it can add so much value to your overall project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, June. That was a good presentation. We are holding all questions until the end, till after everyone has presented. I see that one of the participants is advising us that the live stream is not going yet. So, Dick, if you could get the live stream going, that would be good.
I can't.
Pardon me?
Jim, I can't get into the, I have the wrong screen up. I can't do the live screen.
All right, Dick, I'll take care of that. Why don't you take over as host right now, and I'll get the live stream up.
Yeah, all right. I'm sorry, everybody. I got up late this morning. My alarm clock didn't go off. So who are we going to have next now? Was it Jacob, I think?
Yes, yeah. Jacob will be next.
All right. Well, Jacob was introduced in the beginning, I believe, he's from India and in Kerala. So Jacob, why don't you start now and take over.
I'm just trying to share my presentation. 1 second. I hope you can see the presentation.
Yeah.
Okay. So good afternoon to all. This is afternoon in India, a nice afternoon. And we are from the southernmost state of India, Kerala. And we are located on the Western Ghat, part of Kerala. And this is basically, I'm from an organization named PDS Organic Spices, and it's a part of a non-governmental organization. PDS Organic Spices, basically we are engaged in organic farming, research and development and of organic products and organic products processing and marketing for the empowerment of small and marginal farmers community in the Western Ghat region of the Idukki district of the state of Kerala. And we have around 3,500 small and marginal organic farmers with us. And we are part of a non-governmental organization named the Pyramid Development Society. Pyramid is the name of this region. And this society was established in the year 1980s. And as you all know, the Western Ghat is one of the biodiversity hotspots in the world, and it has a fragile ecosystem. And it's a hilly area and it has very slopey terrain. And 90% of the farmers here are small and marginal farmers. And the major cultivars are spices like pepper, ginger, cardamom, clove, nutmeg, etc. And this area is highly affected by the climate change. You may have heard of the 2018 and 2019 heavy floods, and there were these droughts after that. So the area is highly affected by the changes of the climate and drought, soil erosion, and resultant soil acidity, etc. And the social condition is that the women were financially depends on the men folks in the community. And we found out that the soil health regeneration, that is a route for the climate change mitigation and ensuring the food security of the region. So a well-managed soil will reduce the emissions and increase carbon sequestration, and it mitigates the impacts of climate change like flood, soil erosion, droughts, etc., which we have been facing for the last 20-25 years here. And a well-managed soil will have good water holding capacity. Water shortage is one of the important parameters here in the farming, and a good well-managed soil contains high organic matter that is very important for the organic farming, and will have good microbial population. So this all leads to the sustainable yield and sustainable income for the farmers. So we found out that the vetiver grass will be a good tool for regenerating the soil health. So our focus for the soil health is not on soil fertility, but on the soil biodiversity. Increasing soil biodiversity is an important parameter of our way of promoting organic farming. So in the steep terrains of Western Ghat, some of the farmers, they have been traditionally using this vetiver plant as an effective mechanism against soil erosion. So we found out that age-old technology, and we scaled up to our spices farms. So vetiver slips has been developed in our own nursery. We have a good nursery, a plant nursery, and we have widely distributed it to the farming community and encourage them to plant it throughout the contours. So we found out that it prevents soil erosion and traps sediments, and it conserves soil moisture in their farms, and it increases soil carbon sequestration. And it has a good biocontrol mechanism against some pests which are attacking the spices plants. And it's also a good mulching material, the leaves of this vetiver plant. And after that, we integrate this vetiver plants to the spices value chain as a woman micro enterprise to ensure its sustainability of the activity. The PDS Organic Spices decided to integrate the vetiver program to the spices value chain as a woman empowerment initiative to ensure its sustainability. So we, in 2012, we invited 7 trainees from the Thailand to train the weaving technique to 25 women. And follow-up trainings were conducted for 1 year regularly, and women were supported to improve their weaving skills. So the women group has entered into social contact with the local farmers to grow and supply vetiver leaves. And they did exposure visit to women handicraft unit making screw pane baskets in the nearby region. So 3 women take lead roles of unit coordinator, training coordinator, and quality control of this group. So these ladies have identified 52 new ladies from 3 villages of the region, and they have been trained to make the vetiver basket. So we have conducted 10 such trainings, and it was in the year 2013. And after that, they have formed their own group, a joint ability group, and they have made a strong institutional setup, and with the technical and managerial capacities of the women have been built. And in consultation with the Central Institute of Medicine and Aromatic Plant, it was situated in Lucknow and Bangalore. New varieties that are suitable for making handicrafts has been identified. It has been purchased from them there, and we have developed the slips in our own nursery. And we have made a vetiver craft making center, an infrastructure for this ladies group, which enable the women to work in a systematic manner. Then PDS Organic Spices, we have been purchasing this box from the ladies, and we have been marketing it in different segments. And these are the recognitions these ladies received. They have received International Micro Entrepreneurship Award from Paris in the year 2014. And they were invited to the international conferences on sustainable livelihood in Milan in Italy. And you can see the photo of the group leader. She's the president of the group. She went to Paris, and she received the award from there. She is actually a rural woman. She's a wife of one of our farmer. So the major markets are tourism industry. Our area is actually one of the tourist area. So we are selling this, we are marketing this vetiver baskets in the tourism industry, and organic and natural product shops, along with our other organic products. Then national and international organic and other events, then institutional and corporate giftings. So on an average, each member is earning Indian rupees 3,000 to 3,500 per month. It is actually if they are using their free time to make this basket. So they are earning additional income of 3,000 to 3,500 per month. And we found that the program is sustainable because it is ecologically sound, socially just, and economically viable for the ladies group. So we call this model as an economization model, which means we are converting the ecological conservation activity to an economical activity to ensure the sustainability in all levels. That means ecological level, social level, and economical level. And also this activity integrates this rural women groups into it. Okay, thank you. This is my presentation.
Okay.
So, good morning. My name is Paula. I am architecture and civil engineer and project manager at the floor Bioengineering. I also coordinate and carry out the Vetiver handicraft training we had in Brazil in 2016. So the Floor Bioengineer is one of Brazil's largest company providing bioengineering service to protect infrastructure through Brazil. Vetiver System technology is one of the advanced technology that the Floor is using. The Floor has a very large nursery producing millions of plantings slips for its own use. Local villagers are the main employees of this nursery and to provide extra income to this workforce. The Floor initiated a Vetiver handicraft training, production and marketing project. So in 2016, Aloysio, the owner, the founder of the Floor, invited some friends from Venezuela, Rafael Luque and Marbella Rivers, to train and teach our people from the community close to our farm to learn the handicraft with Vetiver. We were used to use the Vetiver for most of erosion control products. The region of the community is located southeast of Brazil. The state calls Minas Gerais. So my first contact with Vetiver handicraft was in TVNI conference 2015 in Vietnam. This is the Thai princess and some of the members of TVNI group. So I participated on 3 days international handicraft exhibition and training course from Thailand people. So it was my first contact and where I could meet some people from other countries, Thailand, India, and Venezuela. And we had the idea to invite them to Brazil to train our people, and we could start a social program. The Floor also was the sponsor of the ICV6. So here is Dr. Aloysio on left. He is the founder of the Floor and the nursery. Rafael Luque and Marbella Rivas from Venezuela. Aloysio invited them on September of 2016 to teach our group. Here are some pictures of the training room, the workshop trained 23 craftsmen using Vetiver leaves with a total of 112 hours of training. Some instructions by Miss Marbella Rivers. The people, most of them are used to be artisans. They used to produce other material, other products with some raw material we have there, like wood, seeds, painting, paper. Marbella teaching the artisans to prepare the leaves. Here is Miss Beverly. She became the master of handicraft. She prepared to teach other groups, new groups, every single week. So the activity will continue with participants who meet 1 day each week and also incorporate new members of the community. Some pictures of practicing during the Venezuelan group teaching. The Floor provides looms, other tools, and some plants for their gardens to provide their own raw material. Some beautiful handicrafts they were able to prepare. Other pictures the first products, they were able to conclude different types of products. Marbella and Rafael learn, teach us, and people from Santana learned. We also produce some baskets, so we can substitute the plastic baskets for vetiver grass handcraft baskets. Some more beautiful handcraft. And in the end of the course, they were able to receive their own certificate signed by the Rafael Luque and Marbella. Here in this picture is Aloysio, Rafael and Marbella, and also Billy from Rio de Janeiro. He's from the state of Rio, and they also join us during the vetiver course, handcraft course. So this picture shows the last group we have that we could certificate in the end of 2020. Beverly, the master, and the girls, the most of them women, that could learn and start doing their own products in their house. Because after it started the pandemic, we have to stop meeting together every single week, and they are doing and preparing the products on their house with their family. It is good because all the family starts learning too. This is some products the artisans also made with typical material we have in Brazil before the vetiver. It's some sweets, jelly, wood stuff, painting, seeds. So they didn't have so much difficult to learn the vetiver, and they are very creative to develop new designs and new products. Here, they are preparing the leaves of vetiver, drying, trimming the leaves. The floor also provides them with an industrial sewing machine to help them developing more diversity of the products. So here is Miss Beverly. She became the master. She's from Zimbabwe in Africa, but she lives in Brazil more than 10 years. And she had very easily learned with the Venezuelan group. So she became the master, and she teach every week new group. And here she was doing a video for a Brazilian TV. Some beautiful products they were able to do. Actually, they are specialists here, how to prepare the leaves. Some beautiful handcrafts after the Venezuela, and how they keep going and producing in Brazil. So the project includes marketing through hotel local shops in region cities. Here is some shops in the midtown of Santana dos Montes. Very small shops, but we sell a lot of typical products and handcraft products. For tourists, it's a tourist route of hotel farm route. So we have most of the weekends and holidays. In vacations, we have visits of them, and they are very proud to buy some handcraft product. In December of 2018, at one of the largest crafts fair in the Americas held in Minas Gerais state, Brazil. It involved the students from the workshop held in 2016. With great surprise, the results of that workshop is being shown internationally by other students. Also, this joint venture is being multiplied by them. who have seen training other people through the techniques learned in that course. The artisans are having a decent job to earn money, and this motivated other people to learn the handcraft production techniques. So for conclusions, the local population benefits from the new handcraft activity provided by Vetiver Grass. Women and young people who had no job before now devote time to the handcraft and receive a new monthly income. Artisans plant seedlings in their own homes and cultivate to develop their own products. And therefore, Bioengineering developed a social program and created more jobs in the region. So I want to thank you very much for everybody for the attention, all members from TVNI, and also Paul Strong, my friend from Vetiver, that I am been learning most of things about this beautiful grass. Here are my contacts. Thank you.
Thank you very much to everybody for this webinar. And I would like to thank you very much to Fundación Polar, Empresa Polar, and technical advisor of Vetiver Fundación, Gerardo Yepes Tamayo, and Professor Oscar Rodríguez, and Ernesto Andreu, Mrs. Grace Rivero, and Edgar Ceballos. The Vetiver history. It was the brief history. Vetiver was brought by the English from Trinidad to Venezuela 150 years ago. Fundación Polar asked me for a social, economic, and environmental development project to support low-income communities in Carabobo State. The Vetiver project was I like to talk about the Vetiveran people. Well, we started the project in Hogares Santana 2001. And this was the 26th Vetiver project in these 19 years. Here, we have to use all this project was in different areas, and we trained to train it. It was a chain of, and this was the most institution. We have the promotion, of course, the Vetiver project support many institutions. And this media was through Venezuela. The TVN, Chaypatana Foundation, and local institution helped to Venezuela, to Fundación Polar, to organize it. I see before celebrating Caracas. A special thanks to Vetiver Anti-Erosion, company from my brother, and Vetiver Life. They supply all the Vetiver fiber and tillers. The propaganda that the Vetiver reached, the project Vetiver reached, made many organizations and companies interested in this methodology and did their own, they did their own projects. We went to Panama and workshop Vetiver handicraft in the floor with Paola. My brother Rafael was the project, made the project. Okay, the Vetiver from Thailand, from Venezuela. And once the people were interested in the Vetiver project, they immediately They planted the vetiver in their house and in place where the problems with water contaminated are. How may people fall in love with vetiver? I always sing a song. Llevo tu luz y tu aroma en mi piel y el cuatro en el corazón. And then Grace read some self-esteem lectures. And I present a conference on Vetiver System to the people. Conclusion, more than 20,000 people were trained, direct or indirect, children and grandchildren. An average of 2 million cubic meters of fiber and around 5 million of vetiver tillers were delivered to the communities. 125 pieces of vetiver handicraft we designed and made. The Polar Foundation project contribute to expand the vetiver in all Venezuela and other Latin American countries. The Vetiver project of Polar Foundation support 5 research theses in vetiver fire to remediation area. This is more, some figures we made. And well, it was very important, the marketing and sales vetiver for tourist shop, workshop, and exhibition. Vetiver project with indigenous community who adopted vetiver in Pijiguao region of the south of the country, lowering the pressure of the deforestation of moriche palm with a positive environmental impact. Vetiver helped to raise this very beautiful project, Escuela de Labores Moconoque in Mérida State, Venezuela, and they made some tourist vetiver handicraft piece. Of course, we may contribute to IC4 in Caracas. In the future, Vetiver System, including handicraft, can play an excellent role to help for this big problem. Environmental experts agree that the situation of the Valencia Lake Basin as the most serious environmental problem in Latin America. We think we are planning to develop a long-term vetiver projects in the Valencia Basin Lake, 3,000 square meters in the following directions: vetiver wetlands for cleaning water, vetiver pontoons in 2 big tanks as a Paul Tron right, vetiver trimming of runoff contaminated water from open landfills, social development of rural community with vetiver handicraft, and connected them with fair trade, planting a large vetiver nurseries involving farmers. I think that it was the best project that I have in my life. God bless Venezuela. Wow, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Oswaldo. Very glad you were able to connect, and thank you for the excellent presentation. You've done quite a bit in Venezuela, so God bless you too. So we're going to move to question and answers now, and I'm going to turn this over to Dale, since he's been tracking the questions. Dale?
Okay.
Hi, everyone. During the presentations, we had different comments by people, and I tried to answer them directly in the chat function. Also, we had 9 questions that were put into the Q&A button. I'm not sure everybody saw the Q&A button. There are 2 ways to communicate with us with questions, is the chat function and the Q&A function. And so I'm not sure everybody understood that, but basically the 9 questions that we have received were specifically addressed to presenters, and I answered those. However, one question is of general interest to those who are attending, and that is, are there any manuals that are out there that talk about vetiver handicrafts? And I have one that I sent to one of the attendees that was created by the Thais back in the 90s. The specific question was, can you dye the leaves of vetiver to incorporate into handicrafts? And the answer is absolutely yes. There are specific formulas for that, and that the manual that the Thais produced talked to about briefly. However, I don't have further information about the level of effort needed to dye the leaves. However, it really concerns the kind of dyes you can use to make them indelible or to actually show up, but that anybody who needs that information can ask us, and we would be more than happy to send that manual. Let's see. Another general question was related to what we do normally, which is that we put all the information from the presentations online. Dick handles that, and you can get copies of the presentations from that after we're done. Let's see now. Another question that was of interest is that somebody asked about drying the leaves of vetiver. That is, can they be done at room temperature, or do you need to specifically heat up the temperature? And the answer to that was that indeed you can dry vetiver leaves at room temperature, which is just fine. Let's see. Another general question was, have some of the original participants in training become teachers later on? And the general answer was absolutely yes, that those who received training, some of them went on to become teachers, and that is the way the message is spread. And I'm sure in Venezuela, they have many, many, many of the original trainees who went on to become master trainers. The same thing with the Thais, obviously.
Mr. Dale, let me just...
Yes?
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, let me just add on to that particular question. For us, actually, in 2012, initially 10 ladies were trained, and the trainers we invited trainers from Thailand. That time, we don't know anybody from Kerala or from India to train these ladies. So after that, what we did that these 10 ladies, they were become master trainers, and they have trained, so far they have trained more than 100 ladies. So this is the way our ladies group working.
Okay, that's
Dale.
Yes.
Can I interrupt a minute?
Sure.
The Vetiver Network actually paid for 2 ladies from India. I think they were from an institution up in Delhi. I forget the name of it now. But they were trained they went to Thailand and were trained and were supposed to be available to train people in India. I will find, they wrote quite a good report actually, which is available on our website, as is the training manual from Thailand on our website. I will try and highlight those a bit more so it's easier for people to find. Also, back in about 2006 or 2000, I can't remember exactly when it was, the Thais ran a very big training course on vetiver. I think Heineken Breweries paid for it. It was about $60,000 worth of training, and a lot of people attended. And that manual, which includes handicraft training in detail, is also on our website. And I will pull all these out and put them in a more, I'll try and highlight them more on the website so people can find them. Thank you.
I think that's a great idea, Dick, because indeed they're kind of dispersed throughout, and it's just one issue that we have to deal with, which is how do you collect material of a similar subject, and I'm sure everybody will enjoy that. Another specific question was asked, and that concerns when you are persuading people to use vetiver for handicrafts, particularly those who have used other materials before. Is there any hesitance or resistance to using vetiver as opposed to the other materials? And I think that this question was asked of Vonnie. Did you find that there was any resistance on the part of retailers to selling vetiver using that were normally accustomed to using other materials? Is that an issue at all?
Hello everybody, I'd just like to thank everyone for the wonderful presentations. I really enjoyed it. It's lovely to connect with everyone. With regards to that specific question about the Kalinago, I didn't find any resistance at all. And I think for a few reasons, because one was that the vetiver was not a new material to them. They were very familiar with vetiver in uses in land erosion and prevention, and also in thatching. And I did find that some were able to make doormats. They traditionally made doormats from the vetiver. So it wasn't really it wasn't introducing a new material. What was interesting to develop was they weren't aware of the variety of possibilities, of design possibilities, using that particular technique of plaiting the rope and stitching different forms. And I think also part of that question was about, because of the Laruma reeds were traditionally used. What I found the workshop throughout was wonderful discussions about how many different traditional materials were used among the Kalinago that have gradually declined in use. And we determined, along with keeping the vetiver production going, to replant some of the other traditional materials and sort of revitalize the traditional techniques. And so there was a lot of enthusiasm to embrace the vetiver in this new area. The Lauma work really has a particular market. So what it encouraged in the future, the vetiver crafters to do is to diversify the product range. So you're not actually overlapping with that particular product that the Lauma has its own limitations, and the vetiver can do different types of utilitarian craft. So I found on the whole that everyone, including the retailers, were very ready to embrace this new thrust forward with the developing vetiver crafts. And also the other aspect that I found very exciting was to apply some of those traditional techniques to combining them with vetiver and to create really new, unique products. So I think also because of the innate creativity among the Kalinago, they were very readily open to embracing these new options and following through with them, yes.
Thank you very much. That's a great answer. We have another question, which was, for how many years do you need to grow to be able to use the material for handicrafts? In other words, at what age does vetiver become suitable for the use of handicrafts? This is aimed at the panelists, so if anybody would like to answer that, please do.
Well, we found that within 5 months, we can harvest the vetiver grass for handcraft.
Is there any preference for longer leaves versus shorter leaves? 5 months in the tropics, you can indeed get probably leaves that are up to 1 meter in length. Here, where it's a little cooler, 5 months isn't quite enough time. Is there a preference for longer leaves versus shorter leaves?
It depends what products you're making and what kind of rope. With the technique that we use, it depends what kind of rope you're using, but we have got 48-inch, well over 1 meter length within 5 months. Sort of surprised me as well. And within 2 or 3 months, we're able to harvest again for the craft. But the guys I work with in the prison, they're always really delighted when we bring in extra long grass, 5+ feet. but the shorter ones can work very well for the smaller product as well and the finer weave.
Is there any problem with the leaf structure itself? As you know, vetiver, as the leaves get longer, a part of the rib splits very near the top, and the tips actually angle downwards. Does that affect anything when it's actually woven?
The more mature grass tends to do that, but it doesn't affect us at all because we're drying. We would dry and process that grass anyway to reach the same sort of dryness as the tip. So no, doesn't affect. I think for some of the other techniques that we've seen in the presentations where the shorter blades are being used for a different type of technique of weaving on a loom, then I think that those split ends would have to be trimmed. Yes.
Okay. Paul Truong has raised his hand to ask a question. Paul, you can go ahead and answer your question. He seems to have his mic on mute, perhaps. Let's see now. We just sent out a message to everybody. You can also use the raise hand technique to get a hold of us, but so far we only really have 2 people that have raised their hands as far as being a participant. I don't know who they are. Dick or Jim, how do we acknowledge the participant to allow them to ask their question verbally? Do they have to type it into the chat?
Well, I would suggest that we first go through the open questions that remain, and once we go through those.
There are no more open questions, Jim. I've been through them.
On my screen, I see one person is asking, is extracting fiber from vetiver grass complex? Could let me ask Oswaldo to reply to that. I'm just going to translate it into Spanish for him. Oswaldo, alguien está preguntando si es complejo extraer la fibra de vetiver para uso en manualidades. What is your experience?
No, it is very easy. It is very easy. At least one plant of 3 months age, and then you cut them and dry it in the sun. Some people make it with hot water and put some some fungicides, but it's not necessary. This is very easy.
Okay, thank you, Oswaldo.
We have another question.
We have yeah, go ahead, Dale.
The question is, how long does it take to train someone with respect to basic vetiver craft skills?
Okay. All these projects we made take about 1 year. First, we make a meeting with the trainer, and then every week we went 3 hours by week. But we select local instructor to attend the people the whole week. And most of this project take about 1 year.
Are there anybody else that would like to answer that question as well?
Yes, yeah, let me answer that. For us, what we did that we did a consultation with the trainers for initial 15 days. After that, the trainees themselves, they have practiced it for 6 months. Then after that, we again consulted the trainers for around 1 week. Then the group members, they themselves trained, and they make perfect boxes. So it took around 1 year, complete 1 year to make the good shaped basket for them.
Practice makes perfect.
Yes.
Yeah,
Vonnie,
exactly.
Yeah. Vonnie, what's your experience?
Oh, my experience is it depends on a number of factors. The skills level or the previous experience of the participant does come into play. Some people you find learn the technique much quicker than others. But generally speaking, I'd agree it would take about a year. It takes about a year, but because there are different aspects to the training as well. So the basic skills is one aspect. The product development is another. We work with entrepreneurship training as well, because in the longer term, we would like to see our participants able to set up their own business if they want to work in a team. We work on teamwork in collaboration as well, so that they have a wide range of not just technical skills, but other skills that you need to be able to set up a business or to train and teach others. Training of trainers is another aspect. So when it comes to working with the prisoners, we look at prisoners who have at least 1 year sentence to serve to really make the training worthwhile and applicable for them when they leave prison. There's also the aspect of product development, which is something that really needs to be addressed in conjunction with marketing and market research that is quite complex in itself. And the product development part, I work with drawing, I work with, I teach how to scale and measure and all these things, these technical aspects of designing and developing a prototype. Yeah, and to also engage the participant on their own creative level, so that they can develop new products as well, and they're not just working with repetition and duplication. And on that note, I do think that the islands all have their own sort of specific cultural references and nuances. And so I like to work with those as sort of feeding in to the whole creative process, so that each, not just island, but each village would have their own little hallmark of style and product.
Great. We have one other person who's raised their hand. That's Janie. Can you please ask your question? We've allowed you to talk, so if you can, there you go. Great.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're a little low. If you can speak louder.
Sorry, I can try.
Yes,
I'm from South. Yes, I'm from South Africa, and I spoke to Dick a few months ago about this Vetiver craft initiative, or to learn more about the craft industry of vetiver. But we are far away from the centers who does the training and to supply the training. Is there some way that, and I mean, that's why I asked the question, how long does it take to train someone basic vetiver craft skills? Is it possible to start with an online sort of communication with someone who is doing the craft training, to help someone like me who is far away from them to get going in some direction? I don't know if it's possible. I'm shooting here from the hips, but yeah, maybe someone can clarify or highlight a bit of a solution to the problem. Thank you.
Great question.
I'd like to make a comment on that. First of all, nice to meet you, Janie. We've been in contact a bit, and I think your question is actually a very good question, and it's something we've got to, as a vetiver community, I think we've got to really try and work out how to do this. And maybe with the capability of these sort of Zoom meetings, we might be able to do a bit that way. If we could just get, particularly if we could find a way of getting at least 1 or 2 people in a country trained up well, they can then go off and train other people or other groups. But I imagine it could be done. I mean, Oswaldo, for example, has been training an engineer or somebody who's wanting to use vetiver for bioengineering in Mexico, and he's done that online, and I believe that was quite successful. So maybe we could think about this, and perhaps one way is to see if we could get the Thais to set up some online training. It's costly to fly to various countries to do training, but maybe we could talk to our friends in Thailand and see if they're willing to do this. And perhaps we could, other people might have some ideas, and we can throw them all in the pot and try and work out what's best. But it's something we should do, because I feel that these handicrafts training, or the making of handicrafts, really does work back into the community. And once the communities are comfortable with vetiver, then we can get them to use it more for environmental purposes like soil and water conservation and improving farm production and so on. So yes, I'll certainly take that up, or Jim will take it up, or Dale, somebody will take it up, and we'll get on with it.
Thanks, Dick. We have another hand up, and that's from Mary Romney. Mary, please, you can make your comment now.
Good morning to the panel. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm from Trinidad, a little village called Paramin, and we were reintroduced to the vetiver by Jonathan Barkant. I'm sure you are familiar with that name. And I got involved in the vetiver program. They planted a nursery on my land. So right now I'm in possession of a big nursery. I did the craft. And after doing the craft, I was asked to teach. So I presently taught 3 classes. The last class I did was the indigenous Warahu women from Venezuela who came over to Trinidad. So I taught them the craft, and they made a lot of stuff, which we were very pleased with. So what I'm interested in now, and I would like someone to, if they can give me the information and the process in dyeing the grass, because I think it would look very well dyeing the grass to make the different baskets and the different stuff. So if I can get the information to dye the grass, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much.
Mary, if you can send us your email, we can send you at least the Thai manual from the 90s that had a chapter on dyeing vetiver. But I don't know, Dick, do you know, or Jim, if there's any more specific printed information about dyeing vetiver grass?
Well, number one, Dale, why don't we put the manual up on the Vetiver website under publications in the next couple of days, and then anyone who's interested in it can download it directly.
Good idea.
The Vetiver website. I'll certainly defer to our panelists as to the question on manuals and instructions on dyeing. Does anyone, Paula, Vonnie, June, Jacob, Oswaldo, does anyone have?
Yes, yes, sir.
Go ahead, Oswaldo.
Yes, what is the question, please?
La pregunta es acerca de cómo tintar vetiver, si hay manuales o información escrita que se puede compartir.
Nosotros estuvimos en un curso en Tailandia y ellos tienen unas especies de tintes especiales para el vetiver. Sin embargo,
so Oswaldo is saying that in Thailand they have special dyes for vetiver. Go ahead, Oswaldo.
Ok, pero trabajamos con un artesano colombiano que él usaba algunas plantas, hacía extractos de plantas para teñir el vetiver.
Okay, and
aquí en Venezuela.
Oswaldo has been working with a Colombian who has developed dyes from several different plant extracts. Adelante, Oswaldo.
Ok, aquí en Venezuela existe un tipo de papel de color que lo usan para envolver regalos que son de diferentes colores. Marbella Rivas, que estuvo en Brasil, ella aprendió a utilizar ese papel, lo ponía en agua, el papel botaba el color y ahí ponía la fibra de vetiver seca y tomaba muchísimos colores muy lindos.
Okay, very interesting. Oswaldo is saying that they found that there are different types of gift wrapping that you can purchase, and if you put that gift wrapping into water, it will actually give up its dye, and that dye can be used to dye the vetiver as well, giving you a wide range of colors that you can experiment with.
Great.
Gracias, Oswaldo. Muy
We have
interesante,
another-
muy
El problema es con todos estos tintes que muchos de ellos tienen metales pesados y pueden ser peligrosos para la salud. Entonces hay que ir con tintes vegetales.
Okay. Oswaldo is warning that many sort of commercial dyes and colors have heavy metals in them, so therefore they would be dangerous to handle. So it's better to use vegetable dyes if at all possible. Let me ask Oswaldo if they have any manuals on the production of vegetable dyes. Oswaldo, ¿ustedes tienen algunas guías escritas sobre el tema de producción de tintas vegetales?
No, lamentablemente el amigo colombiano dejó de trabajar con Vetiver y se fue con todos sus secretos. Voy a investigar.
Yeah, so Oswaldo they do not have any manual on that, but I would hazard the guess that if you went online, there must be quite a few different sources online for making vegetable based dyes. But this is something that we'll look into a little bit further and see if we can find anything that we can also share.
Yeah, let me just add on to that.
Okay.
Jim.
We did.
Sorry.
Yeah, we did. Sorry.
I'm sorry, Jim.
No,
Go
ahead, Jacob.
Might have
Go ahead, Jacob.
the camera to show you something.
You can turn the camera on yourself with a share screen, but Jacob wants to make a point right now, so let's let him do that. And
it's just a small point. It's like we did some experiments with the turmeric fingers. Like the turmeric has the curcumin content in it, and it gives the dark red color to the some substances. So see, we did some experiment with the turmeric colors, and we found that it was somewhat effective. Also, we did something with the teak leaves, and we found that that was also somewhat effective, but it was not 100% satisfied for us.
Yep, it's a big question.
Dale.
Yes.
I just want to share this on my this thing I've got here. Hang on.
Okay.
Have a quick look at it. Yeah, this is from a very good report from these two Indian ladies who went to Thailand. And I don't know if you can see it, but this is a section on dyeing of vetiver. Here they show making the bundles. They're soaked in water for 6 hours. Then they're added the dye and common salt and boiling for 30 minutes. And these are some of the results they're getting: blue and red and yellow and so on. So it looks as though I mean, I haven't seen it being done, but it looks a pretty simple approach. And this is actually quite a nice little report, which could be very helpful to some people. It doesn't provide everything, but it shows what these ladies were trained in, and I think they're quite competent. So I'll stop the share.
Okay, Dick, if you could, if that's up on the website.
Yeah, that's on the website. Now I will put it up in a easier to grab fashion.
Okay. No, that was very timely, because we also have an open question from Grace Tordilla.
Yes, exactly.
It says we've tried creating fashion accessories out of vetiver grass, which have been treated and boiled in water with some salt, but we've experienced reaction between the leaves and some of the metal accessories that we use. Some metals would rust. Any suggestions? I'm wondering if any of our panelists might have an answer to that question.
I've got a question. Is that was the vetiver boiled and dyed, and then the metal rusted in contact with that, or was it? I wouldn't have thought that metal would rust next to the natural vetiver.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wouldn't it been would the material have been wet when it was being in order to keep it subtle? It must have been probably damp when the weaving was the weaving was actually done. So that dampness might have affected the metal right at the beginning. I don't know, but that's just an idea.
Mary, you can answer that question.
Grace is here, so
Yeah.
she can. Grace, you want to jump in here and
Well,
tell us about it a bit more?
yeah, sure. Actually, the treating with the boiling with salt is really to make the leaves more pliable, more pliant, because it would be very difficult to rope them up. So especially when we're doing fashion accessories, so we're usually dealing with small items, things like that. So that's the reason why we treat it with salt. But then, yeah, that's the experience that we got. There is this rusting off of the metals. Some of the metals, like if we use hooks, we usually use hooks for fashion accessories, don't we? So that happens. So that's why my question is there anything that we can do to prevent this rusting from happening?
Sorry, Grace, I'm wondering if the salt itself is the problem, because salt would absorb moisture from the air, and then that will get in touch with the metal, come in contact with the metal and cause some rusting. And I'm wondering if the salting is absolutely necessary, because if the grass is soaked just in plain water for some time, it's usually very pliable to make even, some of the finest weaves.
Okay.
Maybe do a little experiment and try without the salt.
Without the salt, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, we already did some experience without the salt, but it's very difficult to make the handicraft without the salt. That was our experimentation result.
Yeah, actually using the salt really makes it more pliable. So that's the reason why. So probably we just have to make other accessories without the metals, without using the metals. Yeah,
that may be the better solution.
That's a natural reaction between metal and salt, right?
The other option is to use a stainless steel wire or something like that. It costs a bit more, but you could probably use that, couldn't you?
Yeah. And interestingly, like when you mentioned using stainless steel or stainless wires, I actually have two questions. The other one was already answered even before I was able to raise it, because aside from the salt, we would also use the dyes. As mentioned earlier, you showed a slide, Dick. But my problem there is it's really a chemical-based dye, so it's dangerous to health, etc., etc. And I would like to promote Vetiver as a natural product, So I would rather use natural dyes. So I am also interested in the discussion on natural dyes.
Hola, un comentario.
Okay, go ahead, Oswaldo.
Estoy de acuerdo, porque nosotros que preparamos varios miles de metros cúbicos de fibra, al final nuestra conclusión fue que es mejor trabajar con la fibra al natural. Inclusive, al principio usábamos azufre para control de los hongos, pero las personas que preparaban esta fibra terminaron enfermos, porque por más que uno usaba todas las protecciones, al final el azufre también afectó a las personas. Entonces, de ahí en adelante comenzamos a trabajar solamente con la fibra natural, seca y natural.
Ajá. Oswaldo, ustedes no están mojando, poniéndolo en baños de agua y sal.
No.
Para ensuavizar la materia.
No.
Entonces, cosechado y directamente al
sol.
A la obra.
Al sol.
Al sol para secar.
Y teníamos,
okay. So what Oswaldo is saying is that they have a great deal of experience. That over the years they've done thousands of square meters of woven vetiver, and initially they were using sulfur in the baths in order to stop any fungal growth on it, but that was making people sick that worked with it, so they've stopped. And in Venezuela, therefore, what they do is they use natural fiber, they cut it and they dry it and weave directly from the dried fiber. They are not soaking it at all, and they're not using salt in the handicrafts. They're doing that.
Sí, otra cosa. Las mujeres, para trabajar la fibra, mojaban la fibra seca, la sumergían en agua para que estuviera suave, pero agua sin ningún tipo de producto químico.
Okay, gracias. There's a correction there. The women that do the weaving do put the fiber in water in order to make it easier to work with, but they do not put anything in the water.
Yes, if I could just add to that, we don't use anything in the water, and we find that if we've become quite good at plaiting the rope when it's just the rope, it's not quite dry, it's almost dry, not dry enough to shrink when it's plaited, but it depends what you're making. So if you plait it at a certain stage when it's not quite dry, it's pliable and you don't need to soak it. But just with reference to how long the grass lasts, I started working with Vetiver in 1994, 95, where I had a sort of production workshop really with some rural people in Leeward, St Vincent. And I still have some of the products from those days. So, almost 30 years later, what I've found is that the vetiver grass itself, untreated, lasts. It's not deteriorated. What does deteriorate over time is the material that you're using to stitch. In our case, it was screw pine. And then where we developed some products combining banana fiber with the vetiver, the banana fiber would disintegrate over time. But the vetiver grass itself has held up. It's incredibly durable. That's why we use it for these huge mats, huge floor mats that last for years and years. And Dominica traditionally made a lot of those very large vetiver floor mats. And I have one in Dominica that's about 25 years old and still, it's just the stitching that's disintegrating, not the vetiver itself. And that's not treated at all with anything.
Yeah, I can confirm that. I have some handicrafts that I picked up in China 2003 at the ICB, and they are still in great shape now, 2 decades later.
I have the same experience. Vonnie, there's a question here for you from Vanessa Slinger. She says, I think that the La Roma reed that Kalinago used is buried in mud to change the colors of the reed. Could this be used with vetiver?
Good question, yes. They do have that technique, but if you do that with the vetiver, it will get sort of mildew and become very, very weak. So it would disintegrate. If it's wet for any length of time, it gets weak. And you can see that when you're drying the vetiver to prepare it for use in handcraft. If it's not turned over, well, we have racks so that the air ventilates the grass easily. We just leave it on the racks and it dries nicely. But if you have some of it too deep, or it gets wet and it becomes humid, it gets moldy very quickly. So that's what would happen, because we discussed that in Kalinago territory when I was working with the team there, and it disintegrates. That's why it makes such great mulch, you know, in farming, because it disintegrates beautifully into a lovely organic layer. I have to say, in the volcano with all the ash, the farm system that we have here using vetiver survived so well, and the plants that were mulched thickly with vetiver didn't suffer any consequences of the very thick ash deposit, unlike other vegetation and other farms.
Are there any other questions that any of the attendees would like to ask the panelists? I don't have any open questions or hands up, other than Jim was asking Grace if she had a further question. Oh, well, just somebody did and then took it away. So I still don't have any open ones.
We do have, well, there is one open question from Luis Tapia. Do you have a program for handicraft in Peru? Does anyone know of a program in Peru?
Jim? I don't think there is one, but I see no reason why there shouldn't be one. And Alwas, who is the king of vetiver in Peru, is the sort of person who might well try and pull something like that together, or some of his associates might do. We should discuss that with them, I think.
His mic is on.
Well, Alois is here, and I'm asking him to unmute and let us know if there's anything in Peru.
You might want to ask him in Spanish.
Yes, you probably do.
Alois, aquí está Alois. Adelante, Alois.
¿Me escuchan?
¿Aló? Sí, muy bien, y yo puedo traducir si se quiere.
Bueno, en Perú ya estamos en el camino, hemos los primeros productos con vetiver, sillas, etcétera, y a partir de esta semana ya se va a formar un grupo que está dedicándose a la artesanía, especialmente con vetiver, porque desde octubre empezó un proyecto en un sitio con niños que tienen todo el día en un lugar a donde pasan el día. Bueno, por el COVID no están bien cada día, pero una vez empezando va a ser bien intensivo el trabajo con el vetiver por artesanía.
Gracias, Alois. Okay, yo voy a traducir. So Alois is saying that since October, they have started work to try to have a vetiver handicrafts program in Peru. And so within the next week or two, they're actually going to start forming a group for handicrafts in Peru. Lois, cuando ustedes lancen el grupo por el interés, si nos podría pasar como un link o cuando están listos, podemos promover también el grupo. So I'm saying that if Alois lets us know when he's ready, we can promote it through the social media sites, and others in Peru then would be able to get in touch.
Sí, seguramente que le va a iniciar eso y va a invitar al grupo que está iniciando, que se dedican también a la difusión de sus trabajos.
Okay, excelente. So they'll definitely be starting up the group, and they will also be sure and promote and use the group for retailing, for selling of or promotion of handicrafts.
We have another question from Haynes in Tobago, who asks, at what stage do you soak the vetiver for handicraft use? June, your mic's muted. Anybody else?
You know, as you know, my program was very basic, so I myself still have a lot to learn about vetiver handicraft, but I would be particularly interested in any opportunity for some online training, because it would be so difficult to get a trainer to come to Grenada, and I was unable to source anybody here who could take our participants past the stage, you know, to learn the more advanced techniques, but they're anxious to do it. But with COVID, it's very difficult to get a trainer here, so we would love to be able to get the online training.
Oswaldo, can you answer the question about soaking? When do you, at what stage do you soak the vetiver for handicraft use?
Sí, muy fácil. Tan pronto tú tienes tu fibra seca y vas a hacer una pieza de vetiver, la humedeces por 1 hora, 2 horas. Generalmente lo que hacen es que la dejan en un recipiente durante todo el tiempo del día que van a trabajar con la fibra, con el vetiver. Después la sacan del recipiente y la secan. Acuérdense que el tema de la humedad es los hongos. Entonces eso es lo que hay que tratar de que no existan hongos. La otra cosa, yo quería hacerle un comentario y es el siguiente.
Un momento, porque voy a traducir lo que acabo de decir, pero mi pregunta para clarificar, Oswaldo, usted está diciendo que se cosecha el vetiver, se lo seca, se lo coloca de nuevo en agua, en un recipiente cuando se quiere tejer algo con el vetiver, y las hojas se quedan en el baño, en el recipiente, mientras que se está trabajando. Y después hay que tener mucho cuidado en secar la artesanía para evitar hongos. ¿Es así?
Es así, sí, pero eso es muy fácil.
Okay.
Muy fácil.
Sí, un segundo. So, Oswaldo is saying it's actually quite simple, that after you harvest the vetiver and you dry it in the sun, when you're ready to start weaving with it or making something with it, you put it in a container of water for an hour or two before you begin the weaving, and then during the day while the piece is being worked on, the vetiver stays in the water throughout. But once the piece is finished, it's extremely important to make sure it's well dried, otherwise you'll have a problem with fungus growing on the piece.
Great.
Okay, Oswaldo?
Otro comentario. Hay un comentario adicional.
Go ahead.
Alguien preguntaba por ahí un comentario y una respuesta. Alguien preguntaba que de qué tamaño eran las áreas que necesitaban las personas para hacer su pequeña siembra de vetiver. Desde 1 metro cuadrado en adelante, porque el concepto es hacer independiente a las personas de insumos externos, que ellos mismos generen su fibra, que ellos mismos generen sus plantas y lo más importante, conectarlos con el mercado. Las piezas pueden ser muy sencillas al principio y luego irse haciendo piezas más complicadas, pero importante desde el primer día tratar de conectar a las personas con el mercado. Eso es lo que de verdad ayuda a que las personas tengan un proyecto sostenible.
Okay, gracias. So Oswaldo is saying there was the question about how big an area of vetiver do you need to plant for a handicraft program or project. He's saying it really depends on the individual, because the idea is not to have for them centralized nurseries to provide the fiber, but that each artisan that wants to work with vetiver plants their own. So even if it's just a square meter of vetiver, that's fine. But the idea is that the artisans, the people doing the weaving, should not have to rely on any external inputs. And he's also saying that it doesn't matter if you start off with very simple objects. You'll learn over time and you'll be able to do more sophisticated and more complex objects. But to make this happen, the important thing is that you connect the producers to the market, because with market sales, that is what is going to sustain the effort and allow people to become more sophisticated in their work over time. So he wants to underline the importance of helping people to connect to markets, because that is where the sustainability will lie. Gracias, Oswaldo.
Are there any other questions?
Tengo otro comentario.
Oswaldo has another comment.
Es importante que estos proyectos tengan el soporte a largo plazo de instituciones. ¿Por qué? Porque las instituciones tienen todos los recursos para hacer de este proyecto un verdadero proyecto sostenible de desarrollo social. Por ejemplo, nosotros estuvimos en Francia, en Lausana, en una gran exposición de artesanía y llevamos piezas de vetiver para allá. Obviamente, cuando dijimos que eso provenía de comunidades muy pobres, que protegíamos el ambiente, inmediatamente todas las piezas se vendieron. Por eso de que hay una aceptación para este tipo de proyectos a nivel mundial.
Okay, gracias. Oswaldo is saying, ideally there would be ongoing long-term institutional support for the people producing the handicrafts, and he's referring particularly to the marketing side of that. And he mentions that they at one point attended an exposition in France where they brought handicrafts from Venezuela, and when part of the marketing message was that these came from poor communities and from poor households, that they sold out almost immediately with that marketing message. And in their experience, that's a very important message to get across in the promotion, branding, and marketing of the handicrafts, that globally there's an interest in supporting poor households.
Yes, I'd like to support that statement with the project that we have with the prisoners, the handcrafts for rehabilitation, and we extended the program beyond the prison for the ex-prisoners, the guys who've come out with those skills. We're setting up a workshop for them to work. And I'd just like to support what Oswaldo said about the message. We found we've got incredible public support for this program because people recognize that when they buy a high quality Vetiver product that's durable, they can use it at home for years on end. They're also contributing in a direct way to addressing some of our socio-economic challenges, as well as, you know, the recidivism, the rate of reoffending, and the people who've gone through the program is so much lower. It's 2% compared to 70% in the mainstream prison population. And so the marketing is absolutely crucial, and the sale of products and the generation of income for these guys and women, in not just the sustainability, but in the in connecting the community and the consumers with that ethical purchasing decision, and really, it really does make a difference.
Con el
Thank you,
tema
Vonnie. One second, please. I think there's one more question that's open from Samsung Nabi, who is the coordinator of the Vetiver Network in India. And Samsung is asking about what is the more preferred part of the plant to work with, the shoot system or the root system. I think we've been talking about the use of leaves, but Samsung is also asking about making handicrafts with the roots. Does anyone have experience with the use of the roots for making handicrafts?
Sí, nosotros tuvimos una experiencia con raíces. Hacíamos unos osos muy pequeños, muy lindos, pero el problema es que cuando tienes muchísimos usuarios en el proyecto, las raíces no alcanzan porque tendrías que sacar muchas plantas para tener bastantes raíces. Quizás eso puede ser interesante en estos sitios donde traen aceite de vetiver a nivel industrial, que al final le quedan las raíces. Se hacen obras muy lindas. Nosotros tenemos esa experiencia. Con respecto a la calidad, quería, no sé, Jim, si quieres trasladar esto y después te hablo de la calidad.
Okay. So Oswaldo is saying that they have had experience with working with the roots to make handicrafts, and that it worked very well. They made some very interesting objects with it. He's going to comment in a moment on the quality of the roots for making handicrafts, but he did say that one constraint is you need to dig up the plants in order to do that, and if you're going to have production at any scale, it's going to be difficult to dig up enough vetiver and to get the roots, so that maybe that would make more sense in places where you're doing more commercial scale or industrial scale extraction of vetiver oil, that you would have access to the roots following their the extraction of the oil. Oswaldo, adelante con tema de calidad.
Sí, con el tema de la calidad y con el apoyo de las instituciones, tengo una anécdota de la señora Leonor Jiménez de Mendoza, que fue una de las grandes promotoras del proyecto Vetiver. En la zona de Bejuma, en Hogares Santana, aquí se acostumbra en Venezuela a hacer nacimientos que representan el nacimiento de Jesús y hacen figuras muy lindas. La comunidad hizo un nacimiento gigantesco de un tamaño muy grande, el burro, el buey, todos tamaños naturales, y las figuras en tamaños naturales. Ese fue su primer trabajo. y se lo enviaron de regalo a la señora Mendoza. Y la señora Mendoza lo compró, le devolvió, por supuesto, envió el dinero a las personas y le regaló el nacimiento. Y ese día hicieron una fiesta en el pueblo para recibir el nacimiento. 2 años después, la señora un día me dice, Osvaldo, eso fue la cosa más fea que yo he visto en mi vida. Entonces, fíjense ustedes, ahí hay envuelto el apoyo institucional y una lección de calidad para nosotros los proyectistas.
Ok, pero la obra hecha con las raíces, también dura como las obras hechas por...
Sí, cómo no, dura muchísimo y sobre todo que las raíces despiden un agradable olor al principio, después ese olor se va, pero esas obras duran mucho.
Okay. Okay, gracias. So Oswaldo is saying that the works made with the roots does last a good long time, like the leaves do. That initially it does have a very pleasing odor, but that aroma, but that disappears over time. And then he told an anecdote about a group that made a very large installation of a traditional Christmas creche, which is very common in Christmas celebrations, particularly in around the Catholic Church, and that they donated the creche to a well-known local woman, and she was very she told everyone that she would donate that to the local church, I imagine, and she paid for the work, and that went to the producers, but she told Oswaldo a year later that it was actually one of the ugliest pieces of work that she had ever seen, and Oswaldo uses that anecdote to point out the importance of quality control and making sure that the designs and the execution are good. Thank you, Oswaldo. Dale, back to you. Any other pending questions?
We don't have any open questions, either in the chat or raising hands or the question and answer. I would make another comment that in India, roots were woven with leaves to make mats and were used for air conditioning, in that they were hung in the Mughal palaces, and the mats were wet, water was dripped through it, and that the roots provided the aromatic aroma that kept their palaces cooler. I have some roots that I dug up while I was in Madagascar. It's in a bag downstairs in my basement that is completely dry, and every time I spritz it with some water, the aroma still comes up. So the aroma has now lasted, at least in this bag of roots, 25 years. And so I suspect it all depends, but that I wish to thank everybody who asked questions. I think that it was very interesting to receive the answers, and that from my point of view, it went very well.
Okay, well, I think we've got one last question from Grace. Her hand is up. Grace?
Yeah. Is there a preferred vetiver variety for handicraft making?
Well, I'm going to hazard to answer that, even though I'm not a experienced with handicrafts. But if you look at the distribution of vetiver, particularly in the area where our panelists are, that is the what's called the sunshine variety of vetiver, as that's largely the one that was moved around the world. But since Jacob is here, and India as a center of origin for vetiver has both the domesticated oil varieties as well as the wild fertile seeding varieties, I think he's in the best position to answer the question about the possibility of or differences between the different varieties. Jacob, what do you prefer to use in your program?
Yes. Yeah, it's like in our area traditionally, in India itself, traditionally there are two types of vetiver grasses. One is a North Indian variety and one is a South Indian variety. And in our area, commonly, actually the North Indian variety is, the leaves are very tall and it has high oil content in it. And in the South Indian variety, the leaves are, compared to the North Indian variety, the leaves are shorter. And we are using the South Indian variety because the root system of the South Indian variety, it's very good to prevent the soil erosion. And one of our focus is the ecological benefit of the vetiver too, rather than along with the social benefit. So we are using we are promoting the South Indian variety. And another variety of the South Indian variety leaves is that it's very flexible. The North Indian variety, even though the leaves are very strong, compared to the South Indian variety, it is harder. So this is a difference.
Thank you, Jacob. And also, just as a matter of policy of the Vetiver Network International, the Northern Indian varieties are fertile varieties and seeding varieties. And we strongly discourage that being moved out of its natural location. So in India, Thailand, Vietnam, Southeast Asia, and also in Africa, there are seeding varieties which are fine to use in their native range, but we very strongly discourage people moving around fertile seed of vetiver around the world.
I have one more question, which involves, nobody has mentioned using the flower stems, which are very stiff, become useful for making things that are more rigid in handicrafts. Does anybody have any experience incorporating the flower stiff stems as well as the leaves and or the roots in handicrafts?
No, we have no experience.
Sí, aló, ¿me escucha? Aló, aló.
Yes.
Sí, nosotros usamos las flores vetiver para arreglos florales y tiene una larga vida. Tengo acá en mi casa hace 4 años las flores y en pleno contacto. No hay ningún problema, se mantiene firme, quiere decir, no se deteriora rápidamente.
Perfecto, gracias, Alois. Alois is saying that yes, they do use the flowering culms, but they use the vetiver flower directly in floral arrangements, and he has floral arrangements that vetiver flowers that are over 4 years old in his house, and that they last very well. So perhaps not in weaving, but in just using the flower itself as part of an arrangement. There is experience in Peru with that.
Hey, Jim, I believe I recall seeing some handicrafts made in Indonesia using the stem, and I think they were woven as table mats and also screens for window screens. Yes, I do think stems are used, but I don't think they're used for the actual, for making baskets and things like that.
At one of the ICVs, they actually said, the Thai said, that they can actually treat the stems such that they can peel fiber out of the stems and use it as a weaving adjunct rather than using threads or other. They actually use the long individual fibers within the stems that are very hardy and are also useful in making an all-natural product.
That's an excellent observation, Dale. I think, Vonnie, that also speaks to your point about being sure to use some fiber to tie things together that's long-lasting.
Yes, absolutely. And I think we'd like to experiment with some of the stems by splitting them, because it could be that they can be used as what we will call posts in smaller baskets to support and make a really strong form. So, you know, we're still doing a lot of product development with the Vetiver, and it's so much potential to explore still.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, I think we have been on now for over 2 hours, so clearly there's a lot of interest in the subject. So, would very much like to thank all our participants who have hung in. We still have 25 attendees, and also to the panelists for having given us the benefit of their experience and wisdom in this. So I think, unless there's any other burning questions for us to respond to, or the panelists to respond to, I think we might go ahead and close this. So one last opportunity for questions, and I don't think we have anybody raising their hand other than Dale. So
yeah,
Dale?
I have had my hand up forever, so you can avoid that.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you very much to all of the panelists, particularly to you, Jacob, for staying up late in India, and also Paula, Oswaldo, Vonnie, and June. Jacob, thank you all very much, and we will have some of this posted to the website live. I started recording earlier in the, we might not have it all on the YouTube site, but we'll see what we've got. And I think, to me, that one of the main follow-ups that we need to do as TVNI on this is to get in touch with the Thais and discuss the possibility of having some online instruction. And I would also be very interested if our panelists and others would like to stay involved in trying to develop some online training, whether it be help work out content and how to put together online training. I think ideally we would have videos that could be utilized in a step-by-step basis. So let's give that some thought, and we'll be in touch with our Thai colleagues and counterparts to see if there's any possibility that they might be able to organize an effort to develop online training. So, Dick, any final words?
Yeah, I'll have a couple of things. One, I'll definitely get this information you want online, and it will be on our website. And also, I'll put a message in on our Facebook page to give a few links for those of you who use that. I'd like to thank the presenters today. It's not easy to put this thing together when people are all over the world, and there's so many problems affecting everybody. But I think it's been very useful, and I hope we can do some more of this in the future. I would say I've got two things I would like to announce for the future. One is that the next webinar, we haven't got the date and time fixed for it, will be about vetiver and phytoremediation, and Paul Truong will be leading that. And I have also arranged for two very experienced people. One is Feng Xiwan from China, and the other, no, it's not Fengshi one, I'm sorry. Zhongxian Liu from China, and Johnny Vandenberg from South Africa, who are entomologists and who have done the work of putting, using vetiver for the control of stem borer in maize, and sorghum, that's Johnny Vandenberg, and rice. Control of stem borer and rice is done by Liu in China. Both have done excellent work, and it really is a very important step forward for the use of vetiver as what's called a dead-end trap crop. And we probably get that webinar done, set up probably in October or November. And if anybody has any ideas and suggestions of what sort of webinar they would like, any special topics, please get in touch with me and we'll try and organize them. We will have one on slope stabilization. That's another of our sort of three legs of the stool. And I'm not sure when that will be, but it will be sometime this year. So thank you very much. And I'm sorry I came in late, but it's what happens when you get a bit old. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you,
well, I think just
thank you so much.
And, all right. And just,
thank you for arranging this webinar.
Okay, you're welcome. But I would also like to thank the Paul Zuckerman and the Amberstone Trust, because it is a grant from the Amberstone Trust that has allowed us to start to organize and move forward on these webinars. I see that Paul has left, but a thank you to the Amberstone Trust, which is financing our Zoom platform right now to be able to do this.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Again, yes, well, thank you very much, Paula, for joining and for being a presenter. We really appreciate it. The work of the floor is very, very important, and we're glad to have you. Okay, I think we'll go ahead and say goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye, and thank you. That was great. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.